tough to focus on yourself when dealing with classes full of school children on a daily basis. But here to give teachers of Western New York some tips and tricks on how to manage your well-being during the school year is Dr. Wendy and Matthew Smith from our sponsors at Brylin Hospital. Thank you so much for joining me, you two.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Of course. Well, let's start off by talking about this coalition. It is the Anti-Stigma Coalition. Tell us what it is and what the mission is.
We've been around for several years. A bunch of individuals came together and organizations came together under the guidance of the Erie County Department of Mental Health to focus on this issue that was really impacting everyone at all levels and wasn't necessarily funded specifically to be addressed on its own. Stigma, of course, is silence. It's stereotypes. It's negative feelings and beliefs that people have, often that are unfair and untrue, often fueled by myths instead of facts. And what we do is we try very, very hard to chip away at that. It's an awareness campaign. It's a website called letstalkstigma.org where people can go to take the pledge to do what they can to end stigma by watching their language and agreeing to talk frankly about mental health and mental health issues. Because that's really the path towards the better, with stigma. Being free to talk frankly and honestly and really help replace those myths with facts by just talking.
Well, speaking of just talking, you're going to be hosting an upcoming Facebook Live. Tell us what you're planning with it and what you're hoping to accomplish.
Well, we do Facebook Lives about 9 or 10 times a year. We tend to not do them over the summer, but around the holidays. But most monthly, we do. Different topics, different groups, different aspects of stigma. This one is about back to school. But it's about back to school in a very specific way. It's about faculty and staff in the buildings of those schools, which we really feel needs to be addressed because, school teachers and school staff are really at ground zero for the kind of blah that we're all kind of going through right now when it comes to the atmosphere. And for them to be the beacons, for them to be the helpers, they got to stoke their own flames. And we got to figure out how that can be done and what's already happening to help teachers get to that better spot.
So let's talk about teachers maintaining their mental health at the very beginning of the school year. How can they do this?
Well, one of the things you have to look at is how you did the years before. And if you have a pattern of doing well, chances are you're going to do pretty well again. And you have to realize that you've come off from the summer and you've had this time off. So there's going to be normal anxiety, normal worry, normal pressure that things may not go well. But we have to trust ourselves based upon our track record.
What are some practical steps that teachers can do to maintain their mental wellness, especially in the beginning weeks? There's the initial excitement of having the kids back to school, but then there's also a lot that comes with it. One, you're dealing with kids again, and you've gotten a little break, and there are a bunch of things that will be happening that could overwhelm a teacher.
Well, I always say it's okay to set boundaries no matter what you do. So that may be, for example, not taking your work home with you. And just leaving it there. You may feel guilty about that, but that's okay. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. You just feel guilt. That's okay. And you want to just set normal, healthy self-help things that you can do for yourself, whether it be get enough sleep, exercise, talk to loved ones, but don't complicate yourself with too much self-help because that can get overwhelming too. So we want a balance.
A little balance.
A little balance.
Setting boundaries and knowing what you need. If you're trying to do self-help and it's going to stress you out more thinking about having to do these or implement these things in your life, it's not worth it.
Exactly.
How can school administration actually better support their faculty as well?
I think they have to have open forums where we were talking about stigma, where people can go and feel like they can talk to someone, whether it be a colleague or someone that they're close with, about what's going on with them and feel understood, and not feel like the stigma is such that they can't talk to anyone.
Right, because there can be a stigma that plays into educators seeking help, right?
Absolutely, because you're supposed to be the strong one. You're supposed to be tough. You're supposed to be on the front line. So you should be able to be above all that. But like I say, mental illness doesn't discriminate.
Are there any unique challenges that are currently impacting teachers?
They're on the front lines. They're on the front lines of being a conduit and a liaison between the parents, the school, the news. And so there's a lot of pressure on them, a lot of more pressure than there was years ago with the onset of social media. So they have to really be aware that what they do is important, so they have to take care of themselves. Because if you're going to be on that front line and be that giving person to those students, you have to really be taking care of yourself.
We've been under unprecedented levels of stress as a culture for very many years. Even then COVID came and made it even worse.
Right.
So I think schools are still kind of coming out of those challenges. And teachers, of course, are right there. I've tell them they're ground zero for all these things that are impacting young people and families. And their role is crucial in helping people to get through that so they can be mentally well and hopefully learn.
Well, it seems like there's a lot to learn through this Facebook Live. Where can people go to find it, and how can they attend?
Our website is letstalkstigma.org, and all of our Facebook Lives are there. We've done them for several years. Any one of them can be accessed. We're going to be at noon on Wednesday through Facebook. You got to have Facebook if you're going to do the Facebook Live. But as soon as it's over, it gets archived right at our website, letstalkstigma.org. And we get lots of people that watch after the fact. So if people want to have a bologna sandwich and join us on Wednesday on Facebook Live, that's wonderful, or watch it afterwards.
All righty. Well, thank you, too, for coming in, having an important conversation and getting teachers thinking about themselves and how they're going to better prepare themselves so they can better prepare their students.
Absolutely.
Viewers, if you'd like to join in on this conversation to end the stigma of mental illness by connecting with the coalition and on Facebook and hearing their Facebook Live event that's happening tomorrow. This segment is presented by Brylin Hospital. Thanks again for coming in, you two.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.